Now, have you noticed over the last couple of days the activist class in the US suddenly knows what a woman is? The US Supreme Court decision handing abortion rights back to the states has seen a lot less talk about birthing bodies, womb carriers or bleeders, just some of the so-called inclusive terms used instead of women in recent years. But here in Australia, the gender ideologues continue to wield considerable power, so much so that Australia's top health bureaucrat, a man with an extensive medical background, took 3 months to answer a simple question. First, let's see what happened back in April when Liberal Senator Alex Antic asked Health Chief Dr Brendan Murphy that simple question.
Can someone please provide me with a definition of what a woman is? Department of Health. Definition of a man, definition of a woman. Anyone?
It's pretty basic.
Basic stuff. Professor Murphy.
I think there are a variety of definitions, and I think
just a simple
perhaps to give a more fulsome answer, we should take that on notice.
You're going to take on notice the question of what a woman is.
No, well, there are a variety. It's a very contested space.
Well, almost 3 months later, Dr Murphy came up with a definition for women, which proves that the Australian health bureaucracy has been captured by radical gender ideology. Instead of the 4-word dictionary definition of woman, an adult female human, very simple, Dr Murphy came up with no less than 78 words to define one half of the human population. Starting with this, the frameworks adopted to define a person's gender include chromosomal makeup, the gender assigned at birth, and the gender with which a person identifies. And he went on from there, on and on and on. Well, joining me now to discuss this is Liberal Senator Alex Antic. Alex, well done on asking that question in the first place. But what do you make of Dr Murphy's answer?
Well, I just think I'm more confused than I've ever been, Rita. I don't know. I read that answer. The interesting sub-fact to that was it took 78 days. And it was exactly 78 words. So I don't know whether something's going on there, but it was a pretty expansive response, but it didn't really clarify the point. It took a long time to come up with, and it didn't really, it's sort of a bit of this and a bit of that. And so it turns out anything can be a woman. And look, I should say, I think Professor Murphy, probably has been a little bit unfairly labelled with this. I think he's the mouthpiece for the department. What I'm concerned about is how much this shows the creep of radical gender theory into the institutions. And look, people, we all laugh about it because it's ludicrous. It is absolutely ludicrous. But the reality here is this has happened because conservative politics is asleep at the wheel. Like I have a lot of, I suppose, interest in this subject, and I know you do too, but we have to get conservative politicians to start fighting the culture wars, to start pushing back on this stuff, because it's not beneath your dignity, right? It's as simple as that. This is important stuff. This is the most important medical bureaucracy in the country, and it's given us those 78 words of absolute poppycock, so to speak.
After the break, I'm going to be speaking with Matt Walsh about what is a woman. He's done a whole documentary on it, and my goodness, it's an eye-opener. But I want to know, Alex, is this gender ideology having an impact in the health sector? Is it just the bureaucrats adopting this language, or is it actually going to have an impact on the treatment patients receive?
Well, that's a very good question. And I mean, really, you can't see how it wouldn't have an impact on the treatment patients receive, because ultimately it all comes out the other end of the pipe. I mean, this is the same organisation, by the way, who told me that in relation to questions about treatment and vaccines, that there were this stuff for pregnant persons and this stuff for something else. So, I mean, this stuff does have real life implications. It seems ludicrous. It seems, kind of humorous to us here today. But the reality is, if they're making decisions based on that kind of definition, I think we've got some real problems in there.
You're right, and I've spoken to people who were members of the Australian Breastfeeding Association for over a decade, and they had to leave because there were people telling them that men can breastfeed, and they went up for that. Senator Alex Antic, keep up the good work. You're one of the few who, from the Conservative side, who fights the good fight. Thanks for your time tonight.